What's up, guys? This is James from King's Ride Shop, and today we're going to give you a quick rundown of bike maintenance. First thing we're going to start off with is a basic one. If you clean your bike, it really makes the bike last a lot longer. I mean, you can see my bike might have a little dust on it. That's not the end of the world. When like the grime and the dirt builds up, whether it's steering or pedaling, if it's on your chain, it grinds and wears stuff down, and it causes a lot of noise and premature wear. So if you wash your bike every once in a while, it'll go a long ways. You know, you can spray it off with the hose. It's sealed bearing. Don't use like a high pressure washer because you don't want the water to get into the sealed bearings. But you can rinse it off, dry it off. It should be fine to do that every once in a while. You don't got to do it every day or every week, but you know, keep it somewhat clean. And while you're cleaning it, goes my second point. You want to check the bike for any kind of like cracks or damage. You know, forks tend to crack around this area, possible dropouts, or you know, the frame can crack. These are the Colt Sect IC V2 forks. They're pretty tough. This is an idle frame. It's super strong too, but nothing lasts forever. If you're a hard rider, you should probably replace this stuff at least every 2 years, maybe a year if you're a really hard rider and you like to bail a lot and your bike goes bouncing across the park. I don't care if it has a lifetime guarantee or something, it will still break eventually. You probably want to replace it before you lose all your teeth or smash your face, or it's not really that big a deal to buy a new fork every once in a while. It helps the BMX industry and makes your bike look fresh so you don't look too dated. After checking it out and everything's good, you don't find any kind of damage, you probably want to go to your tires. Tires lose air over time. And when I say over time, you'll probably lose, you know, 4 or 5 psi every week or two, depending on where you're at. So you just check them, pump them up to whatever tire pressure you like. Obviously, if you run super low tire pressure, you can get more pinch flats. You know, you can't get up those curbs sometimes. Ding your rim if you case. From there, you want to make sure everything on the bike is tight. And I'm not saying like overly tight to where, you know, you tighten it until it smokes and give it a quarter turn, but you just want to make sure, you know, your headset's tight, doesn't have any play. If your headset is loose, you want to loosen the side bolts on the stem and tighten the preload cap only until there's no play, and you can kind of feel the bearing. You don't want to tighten it so much that it slows the steering down on it, that you can feel a reduction in resistance in the steering. So keep that in mind. If you over tighten that, you can ruin your headset. Make sure your bars are tight. Make sure your crank arm bolts are tight. These are the Colt Chase Hawk cranks. They're super nice. They're pressed fit over 48 spline. Some bikes, they have pinch bolts. You know, if you have like a stock bike or some horrible cranks with pinch bolts, your bike probably sounds, you know, like an old boat. If you do have pinch bolts, you can loosen the pinch bolts, take the side bolt off, slide the arm off, put a little grease on the spindle, slide it back together, tighten it up. It'll reduce any creaking noise or anything like that you have. I'd recommend a pressed 48 spline crank. Way less maintenance, way stronger, way quieter. I just like it. These Colt cranks are rad. I'd get a pair. Check your wheels, make sure they're tight. Nothing like a wheel falling off while you're riding. Good way to bust your grill. Pedals, they tend to come loose sometimes on the crank arm. Just throw a wrench on there, check them, make sure they're tight. You don't want something so stupid as a loose pedal ruining your session. Some chain lube. This is Tri-Flow. I feel like no BMXers really lube their chain, or rarely lube their chain. It's definitely not their number one lube thing in their life. You should though, and I'm not saying you got to do it every time you ride. Every once in a while, you just want to put a little bit on your chain. You can even wipe any excess off the chain, because you really want the lube to go between the roller and the pin on the chain, which makes it smoother. If you get it all over the place and just go wild, it just collects dirt, and then, you know, the dirt leads to premature wear, noise, all sorts of stuff. So put some chain lube on there. It's a good thing, but don't go overboard. If you don't lube your chain, it definitely causes the sprocket and the rear driver to wear a lot faster, so the teeth on the sprocket wear out a lot faster. You know, luckily we got, you know, company, this is the Odyssey Fang sprocket. Most good BMX companies, whether it's Odyssey or Colt or whoever, makes a hardened aluminum sprocket. If you don't have one, get one. They're light, they're super durable. You keep your chain lube, they last a long time. The other thing is, if you have brakes, you can also take some chain lube and you can squirt it down into the cable housing, and that'll probably smooth your brake pull out quite a bit. If it's still kind of rough after that, just replace the cables. Cables are fairly inexpensive. I think a good Odyssey linear cable is $10. Just put a new cable on it. It's worth the $10. Make your brakes work way better. Another tip to making your brakes work better is, generally speaking, especially on a lot of stock bikes, the spring on the brake is located over the post right here, and when they come from the factory they have too much return on the spring. If you loosen the mounting bolt and hold the cap to the spring retainer with a 13mm wrench, generally, sometimes the size of the wrench varies, you can reduce that spring tension down and make the brake a little easier to pull with less return spring. It still has enough to pull away from the rim, but it's easier to pull, makes your brakes work better. These brakes are the Odyssey spring-filled. They have a center spring that returns the brake. I like this setup better. It's easy. When I put this on my bike right here, I thought it had a little too much spring, so I actually took the spring off and I stretched it a little bit so that it doesn't quite pull back together as hard, so it kind of reduced the tension on it, put it back on, easier to pull, probably because I have the gyro. The gyro causes a lot of resistance. I probably don't really need a gyro, but I like the way it looks, so I have one. From there, we can talk about some wheels. Truing your wheels and keeping your spokes tight makes your wheels last a lot longer. So if you have loose spokes or broken spokes, get them fixed and your wheel will last longer. This kind of goes back to cleaning your bike. If you notice, these rims don't have any scratches on them from my brakes. And there's two reasons there's no scratches. The first one is these are the Odyssey Aerospace rims with a hard anodize on them, and the hard anodize is a lot more durable than regular anodize. The second reason is because I keep the rim on the edge fairly clean, and this is after a year and a half. Basically, when you hit the brakes, if there's dirt or anything on your rim, the brake pad will smash that into the rim, and that's where you get the scratches from. The rubber brake pad by itself, clean, will not damage the rim that much over time. So if you keep it clean, it'll last a lot longer. Keep your spokes tight, the rims will last a lot longer. Don't be scared to buy a part every now and then. Make your bike nicer. If you enjoy doing it, why not? Thanks, guys.